All right, let's watch this video. Why RuneScape's largest cartel collapsed.
RuneScape 2, a stay-at-home mom used the game's most hated skill to build the largest cartel in RuneScape history. Her business paid out billions in wages, hired security to keep order, held funerals for its members, and stomped out the competition. But just as she was about to cement her place as rank 1 runecrafter forever, it all collapsed. This is the story of Lariar's runecrafting business. Our story begins in 2002, when the account Lariar was first created. Right from the start, her story stands apart from the other famous players I've talked about on this.
She was Pablo Runecraftabar? Oh my god, I'm into this.
This channel. The account wasn't made by Lariar herself, but by her husband, who originally created it to play RuneScape with their son. Her husband's first name was Larry, and his last initial was R, so Lariar. When their son later encouraged her to give RuneScape a try, her husband passed the account on to her, and that's where her journey truly began. In her early years, Lariar didn't really stand out. She was, by all accounts, a pretty average player, but that would all change in early 2004, when RuneScape made its transition from Classic to RuneScape 2. Along with the release of RuneScape 2 came a brand new and very important skill, runecraft. Back in RuneScape Classic, runes were very difficult to obtain. You could buy some from shops, but only the most basic low-level ones were available. Higher tier runes had a handful of ways to be obtained, as very rare monster drops, from highly competitive item spawns around the world, or in the case of blood and nature runes, by thieving special chests in Ardougne. Despite the game being called RuneScape, runes themselves were nowhere to be seen. That scarcity was a big deal, because runes are the backbone of the magic skill, and magic was, and still is, very powerful. It allowed players to teleport across the map, turn items into gold, unleash devastating combat spells, and so much more. In Classic, only the wealthiest players could afford to access its full potential, but that would all change when runecraft was released. The skill finally allowed players to make their own runes instead of relying on rare drops or shops. And everyone hated it. RuneCraft on launch was a lot more tedious than it is today. There was no Abyss, Essence Pouches, Combination Runes, or Guardians of the Rift minigame.
Damn.
And experience rates...
So you actually had to run to the Rift yourself. Have y'all ever ran to the Chaos and ran down all those ladders and everything? That thing is ass. I cannot imagine doing that 4 million times. It is so bad. So what I'm imagining that somebody did here was they just had everybody fill their inventory, and then they would just trade the person the runes that's at the Chaos Altar. That's what I'm imagining is probably going to happen here.
Out at around 20,000 XP per hour. So if you hate the skill now, you would have despised it in 2004. The trading process was pretty straightforward, but time consuming. First, you mined rune essence from a special area unlocked during the quest Rune Mysteries. That essence was then taken to one of several altars scattered around Gillen.
Dude, I wonder how fast, like a streamer that has like 500 runners or something. Maybe that wouldn't even matter, because you probably cap out at like 10, because all that person has to do is go back to the bank and then run back. Yeah, like I wonder how fast Odablock could do something like this.
Each tied to a specific type of rune. By using the essence on the altar, it would be converted into runes of that altar's type. The higher your runecraft level, the more types of runes you could craft, and at certain milestones, you could even make multiple runes per essence, massively boosting your profit. Lariar would give runecraft a try, and unlike most players back then, really enjoyed the skill, so she would get to grinding. She'd mine essence, convert it into runes, and then sell them to other players. Her dedication to the skill would pay off, and roughly a month and a half after its launch, she was rank 3 on its high scores. Now, despite her fast progress, she found it near impossible to keep up with Kael Still and Sephiroth, the only 2 players ahead of her. This is because they were training the skill in a much more advanced way. Instead of constantly running back and forth to the bank for more essence, some players realized that they could simply pay others to do it for them while they stayed at the altar.
Boom.
These helpers became known as runners. Runecrafters would compensate them either with gold or with the runes they crafted.
Dude, I just came up with this idea. These guys stole it from me. What the heck?
Sacrificing profit profit in exchange for pure experience. At level 75, Lariar would hire her first runner, and in the following days would shoot up in XP quickly. On July 5th, she would take the rank 2 spot on the RuneCraft high scores. Not long after this, when she hit level 91, she unlocked a huge buff. Each essence she crafted at the nature altar would give her 2 nature runes instead of just 1. Nature runes were one of the most in-demand runes at the time, and she would now be earning double the profit, which made hiring more runners even easier. But the competition was fierce, as Kale was also employing many runners. No matter how hard Lariar tried, it was too late to catch up. Kale still was just too far ahead, and would become the first player to ever hit level 99 RuneCraft on September 15th, 2004. Falling short of first place should have been the end of her story, but for Lariar, it was just the beginning of the largest player-run empire the game had ever
look at
seen.
that line.
But before we get to that, if you're looking to build an empire of beautiful RuneScape merch, you'll love today's sponsor, Creator Crafted. Take a look at their brand new metal
Creator
F-key
Crafted is
keycap
goated,
set.
man. They have
They'll
some
level
cool
up your
stuff.
keyboard aesthetically, and you'll never forget what each key does now. They're Cherry MX compatible and ready for pre-order. They've also got a lineup of stunning desk mats, like their brand new Slayer desk mat. Next time you're bored out of your mind on a Slayer task, all you need to do is look down for a little inspiration. I should also tell you about the clearance sale they're running right now. It's literally your last chance to snag some of these plushies, desk mats, and LED signs before they vanish forever. They look great and they're at the lowest prices they'll ever be. And for anything not on clearance, just click my link in the description or use code LARIAR at checkout for 10% off your order. Now, back to the story. Even though she lost the race to be first, Lariar refused to slow down. On September 23rd, she would become the second player in RuneScape history to reach 99 RuneCraft. Now, when Kale got to level 99, he stopped training the skill entirely. Lariar chose to keep going, and would soon earn enough XP to take the rank 1 spot from him. Even after comfortably securing her spot at rank 1, she just kept grinding.
Zazima.
In the span of just a few months, she'd hit 25 million XP, then 30, 40, 50. But why? Going past 99 didn't provide her character any real benefit, especially when most of the profit she was earning went right into runners' pockets. Lariar wasn't doing it just for money. What started as one person hiring a single runner had quickly evolved into a full-blown company with recruiters, managers, security guards, and even a CEO. This was RuneScape's first corporate empire, and it was all powered by runes. In 2004, a low-level player wandering through RuneScape might stumble across someone shouting about an easy way for anyone to make money, 100,000 gold per hour. At a time when the cheapest party hat cost just 5 million, that was an incredible deal. This recruiter wasn't selling a scam, but offering a job in Lariar's runecrafting business. After a quick conversation and a brief interview, the player would be hired on the spot. This was a serious operation, so details like their name, age, and hiring date would be passed on to Lariar and other company higher-ups. It would even be recorded, at first on paper, and later in an online database.
What
the
the
newly
heck?
hired player's next stop was with a trainer, who walked them through the rules of the job. No cutting in line, always follow the rules of RuneScape, and no running for anyone else. That's right, if you wanted to run for Lariar, you had to run
an exclusive
only
deal.
for Lariar. By locking down her runners, she ensured a steady, reliable workforce that competitors couldn't easily tap into. Other runecrafters who tried to recruit runners quickly found themselves at a disadvantage, because the majority of willing players were already tied up in Lariar's operation. Once the trainer felt this newly hired player was ready, they officially
58 blood bells
became
left.
a runner. A runner's job was simple in theory: bring 25 unnoted essence to the nature altar on Karamja, wait in line with dozens of other runners, and once at the front, hand off the essence to a fellow business member known as a collector. In return, the collector would give the runner 25 noted essence and just over 10,000 gold. From there, the real challenge began. The runner had to unnote that essence as quickly as possible and make it back to the altar to repeat the process. The nature altar is deep in the Karamjan jungle, far from any convenient bank. So this was no easy task. To keep things moving, runners came up with several creative routes to to get the job done. Some runners would use the Amulet of Glory to teleport to Al-Kharid, stop by the bank to unnote their essence, and then take the nearby gnome glider to Karamja. From there, they would just run to the altar.
Not bad.
Others would run back and forth from the bank in Shiloh Village, which was and still is the closest bank. But the most common method was actually running back and forth from Jaminua's jungle store. Players would sell their noted essence to the store and then buy it back unnoted. They'd lose a few GP this way, but it wasn't much.
That's pretty smart.
And was worth the trade-off for how quickly this could be done. Let's get back to the collector's job. Now that they had the unnoted essence, they would then enter the altar and trade the essence to Lariar herself, who would turn it into nature runes. The collector would then go back outside the altar and wait for the next runner's trade. These core jobs formed the foundation of Lariar's business, but what made the operation truly remarkable were the additional layers built on top. Outside the altar, hired security would keep watch. They prevented line cutters and scouted new worlds if any troublemakers showed up. Overseeing the whole operation would be a manager. They made sure everything stayed organized and ran smoothly. They would inform security if the operation needed to hop worlds, determine if more people were needed to run or collect, and even had the authority to fire anyone causing problems. And above even them sat the CEO, or sometimes multiple CEOs. Their responsibility was to sell the nature runes Lariar produced, and buy the vast amounts of essence needed to keep the operation running.
Okay.
This was far more complicated than it sounds, especially in the days before the Grand Exchange streamlined trading.
Oh,
Then at the very
dude, RuneScape without the Grand Exchange was so pog. Buying on IDs 1K each. I remember that, bro. Like, you used to just sit there and go from Varrock, East Bank, you buy stuff at the West Bank and you go sell it to East Bank. This was on RuneScape Classic, guys. RuneScape Classic. Buying Dragon B-Axe, buying Dragon Medhelm, like buying P-Hat 5 mil. Bro, this was like, you used to have to spam everything.
top was, of course, Lariar, the founder and owner of the business. Everyone in the business, from CEOs to collectors, earned a flat salary of 100,000 gold an hour. The only exception were the runners, who were paid per trade in the way I explained earlier. If they kept a good pace, these runners would also ultimately end up making 100,000 gold per hour. With so much money going out in wages every night, Lariar herself didn't profit nearly as much as you might think. Don't get me wrong, she still made very good money, enough to buy white party hats for all of her managers, but she likely never reached the levels of wealth that other famous RuneScape business leaders like Blue Rose 13X became known for. Much like a real business, everyone except the runners met once a week to discuss progress, hand out promotions, and address recurring problems. It was basically a corporate boardroom if half the board had to log off because their mom called them for dinner. Over time, the group began to feel less like co-workers and more like a family. They held semi-frequent drop parties, shared stories during work breaks, and even came together in moments of tragedy. When one of the collectors passed away in real life, the group held an in-game funeral. Everyone put on black gear, gathered at the Edgeville Monastery, and paid their respects. For many, it was the first time that they realized just how real the connections made in a virtual world could be.
Absolutely.
Part of what made this community so strong was that Lariar herself was always around. As a stay-at-home mom, she was able to play 10 to 14 hours a day, often more than anyone else in the group. That constant presence made her not just the leader of the business, but the glue that held it all together. Over the following years, Lariar and her runecrafting business reached new incredible heights. Her efficiency and reputation drew so much attention that RuneScape's parent company, Jagex, invited her to become a player moderator. At the same time, she was consistently earning hundreds of thousands of RuneCraft XP every single day, a pace that no one else could match. By late 2006, she had shattered the 150 million XP mark, holding more than 5 times the experience of the player ranked second on the RuneCraft high scores. But like any player-run empire, Lariar's business couldn't last forever. By the end of 2006, her playtime began to decline sharply, dropping to around 8 hours a day. During the last week of the year, she would do something she had never done before. Take a week off. One of her higher-ups would share this message to explain why. Dear #1 runecrafting team, the only thing Lariar wanted for Christmas was some well-deserved time off. So can we give the one person who teaches us that Christmas giving is year-round some well-earned time off? We need your help for manager crafts this upcoming week. My goal is to give Lariar the entire week. This is our chance to pay back Lariar for all the kindness. For that week, managers stepped in to handle Lariar's job of crafting runes, but since none of them had the level required to make double nature runes, the business ran at a loss. Still, they kept the operation going, determined to maintain business as usual. Not long after this week-long break, Lariar would decide to quit RuneScape entirely. At the time of her disappearance, she had accumulated—
Wait, why didn't they just use her account? It's not against the rules, I think.
Just over 157 million RuneCraft XP, only 43 million short of the 200 million cap. If she achieved 200 million, she would cement her place at rank 1 RuneCrafter forever. Even if someone else came along after her and got 200 million, they wouldn't pass her in rank. So why walk away when she was so close? According to her son, she left RuneScape to join him in a new game, EverQuest 2, where she quickly established the same dominance that she held in RuneScape. While he had only one max level character, she managed to max out 6 accounts while playing every character at the same time. In hindsight, she was basically years ahead of the modern RuneScape grinder. Why get level 99 woodcutting on one account when you can get it on 42 at the same time? Back in RuneScape, the managers and—
Dude, can you imagine your mom comes in the room and she's like, you're grounded. You're leveling way too slow. I don't want you going outside. I've got 6 max level accounts. You don't even have 1. That's pathetic, son. Get back on the computer.
And CEOs tried to keep the business alive, but without Lariar, it quickly unraveled. Lacking the ability to craft double nature runes, their gold reserves drained fast, and before long, they had no choice but to disband. However, this wasn't quite the end of Lariar's RuneScape journey. A few years later, she would briefly return to the game, but she didn't stay long. She would give her personal white party hat to one of her former CEOs, Mrs. Chrysler, who sold it and shared the profits among the old managers, as well as a few new players. That turned out to be a really smart decision, because in 2011, Lariar's account would be hijacked and her remaining gold and items would be stolen. But 2011 wasn't all that bad. That same year, Lariar was immortalized in the game itself. Mod Ash added an NPC named Lariar to the Runecrafting Guild, who fittingly became the vendor of the level 99 Runecraft cape. At the time, the real Lariar was still ranked 4th on the RuneCraft high scores. She had held the #1 spot until September of 2009, when Phoenix Odin finally surpassed her. He would go on to become the first player ever to reach 200 million XP in the skill. Her influence would also continue outside of the game. In 2023, Lariar's character played a central role in the official RuneScape comic book, Untold Tales of the God Wars Issue 0. These days, Lariar has all but disappeared from the online world. She no longer keeps in touch with the members of her old business, and instead of RuneScape, she's found a new passion in painting. She's quoted with saying, "I'm not eager to return, but who knows what I'll choose to do at 70. Although Lariar will likely never return to RuneScape, she remains a symbol of how much one person can shape an entire virtual world, and the players who live within it." Don't forget to check out Creator Crafted in the description below, and use my code LARIAR at checkout to get 10% off your order. After that, check out the video on the right about R2 Pleasant. He formed his cartel not long after Lariar, and managed to turn a completely useless item, the half-full jug of wine, into the most desired and expensive item in the game.
Yo, these Canelo videos are fire, man. He tells good stories. I really enjoy these. Pablo RuneCraftabar right there was a stay-at-home mom. And, you know, she did more than half the people of Bo being in the chat. That's incredible. Guys, we give a round of applause for her. One of the OGs. One of the OGs right there.